She says, "Hi everyone, ready for my close-up." All right, everybody, we're gonna get started. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. We're gonna take a break with Jake. My name is Jake, and I'm here today with my pal Perry, who's our beautiful great blue Tarako here at the National Zoo. Now, this is a species that most of you probably haven't seen before here at the zoo. For brief periods of time, we've had great blue Tarakos over in our aviary near Unseen New World, but otherwise they've been kind of off exhibit. Perry's our first ambassador great blue Tarako that we've had. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I want to tell you guys a little bit about what Tarakos are. That's kind of like a long, fancy name, but they're really cool birds. And Tarakos are found over in Central Africa in countries like the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Cameroon, as well as West Africa like Sierra Leone and Cote d'Ivoire. The great blue Tarako actually has a pretty wide range, and they're found in a variety of different countries, but most of their habitat is forested regions. You gotta play with those keys. So they love living around in the forest, and they also live not just in the deep rainforest, but in gallery forests, which are areas of forest that are like right around bodies of water, like rivers or wetlands, where otherwise the forest might not grow. So like if a river's running through a savanna or a grassland or a desert region, the gallery forest is the forest that grows directly nearby that body of water. And that's where you can find Tarakos like the great blue Tarako. Now, the kind of cool thing about the great blues is they are the largest Tarako in the family. They weigh usually about 2 pounds. Perry is roughly about 2 pounds every day here at the zoo. The smaller Tarakos weigh only about 300 grams, so about as much as a small cup of coffee. So they're really lightweight, whereas the larger Tarakos like Perry are quite large, quite hefty. All the Tarakos like to eat all kinds of fruits and vegetables and leaves, so they're herbivorous. And they move through the trees, jumping from tree to tree and then gliding with their wings. They don't really fly too well. They're not what I would consider the most acrobatic flyers, but they are really good at jumping and running. And that's why you'll see Perry kind of like hopping around on the ground in here, shimmy, bounce around, she'll do her thing, and move around and kind of show off. All the Tarako species live over on the continent of Africa. There are 23 species in total. And then some cool things about the Tarako family, they actually have semi-zygodactylous toes, Kelsey.
What?
Yeah, so that's a very fancy word. So we've talked before about parrots and a couple other bird species that have zygodactyl feet, which means they have 2 toes in the front and 2 toes in the back. Perry says, "I'll take a bite of that camera, thank you." The cool thing about Tarakos is their outer toe on both feet can rotate between sticking forward, like she has them right now, so 3 in the front, 1 in the back, and then rotate back to having 2 in the front and 2 in the back.
That seems like it would be handy.
It would be really handy, or footy. For the Tarako, they use that to grip onto the branches of the trees while they're running. And you can remember I said that they don't really fly too well, but they like run in a very acrobatic way along up in the trees. I need to get like a long branch to go from these 2 perches so we can see her hop all around. She's really good at running on the ground as well. The other kind of cool thing about the birds in the Tarako family is that instead of using primarily structural coloration, which means that the way that the individual feathers are made up and lay on the body, and then the way that the light hits them creates the colors that you and I perceive. So that's like a thing in flamingos, that's a thing in macaws. A lot of other birds that we know have structural coloration. With the Tarakos, they actually create different pigments that create the colors that we see. So there's typically like a reddish pigment, there's also a greenish pigment, and you can actually see both of those colors on Perry. Here, her breast, or her, I guess it's like her lower abdomen really is more green, and then she has pantaloons that are brown.
Pantaloons.
I know. Agent P, you're so cute. So they move around in the trees to find the foods that they like to eat. They love fruits, vegetables, leaves, like I mentioned earlier. Perry in particular loves really sweet fruits. So today I'm going to be offering her some banana, some grape, and some papaya.
What about insects, Jake?
I think they're like more of like an occasional insect eater. Perry doesn't like them. I've tried. Maybe in a past life she liked insects, but not while she's with us. She really doesn't care.
Me neither, Perry. Me neither.
But they're a good source of protein for the folks and animals who do eat them. And then they use this angular bill. It's kind of weird shape, but it's like almost like a triangle. And they use that to grab all the food, and they swallow it in really large chunks. So when I'm gonna sneak right in front of you, when she eats large chunks of food like papaya, she just like swallows it after biting it just a little bit. She's gonna try and take the whole thing. Okay, maybe that's a little too much. She's like, watch.
Watch me.
You're gonna break it in half, hopefully. Let's break that in half. What if we did that? She's like, absolutely not. What a champion. Just a little bit of mess.
I can't believe that.
That was pretty impressive. I was hoping that she would break it up so you could see the giant chunks that she makes, but she was like, oh, I can handle that. Thank you.
I can handle this giant chunk, thanks.
Thank you, Perry. That was very cool. So a little bit about Perry in particular. Like I mentioned, she's our first ambassador Tarakos here at the zoo. She actually hatched out from some parents over in our bird area. She was hand raised by keepers, so she's very, very social. And they said, hey y'all, like we think she might be a good fit as an ambassador animal. So we said, why not? Let's give it a shot. So I was really fortunate. I got to start working with our bird team to like socialize with Perry, become friends with her, and then eventually start taking over her training. And then we made the transition to our new ambassador building, which is where we are right now, once it was completed. So she's going on 2 years old here in July, so she's full grown, fully feathered, and all of that.
I didn't realize she was that old.
Yeah, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, she weighs just about 2 pounds. That's usually a question people have about her when they see her gigantic tail.
Yeah. She looks huge.
Yeah, she's kind of like a chicken size, and she's only about 2 pounds. And like we've mentioned before, ambassador animals here at the zoo help us connect people with wildlife. And so in the future, you can expect to see Perry out in programs around the zoo and encounters, maybe even in shows, because she's quite fun and quite social, and she likes being around all the action. You can show off a little bit. So her favorite fruits, like I mentioned, are those grapes, papayas, bananas. She loves interacting with trainers here at the zoo. She also loves keys and other dangly toys. So this is like one of her favorite things that she's had almost her whole life, and she just like likes to grab it, and swing it, and shake it. How fun! Yeah, you can just like keep her entertained with simple household objects, which is really great for right now. She's like, I dropped them, I'll go get them.
Where did
You're
they
great,
go?
Perry. So about the great blue Tarakos in particular, they're pretty social birds, and they're what we call gregarious, which means that they like to be in groups together and hang out with one another. They communicate with a variety of different noises, so small squeaks and booming calls. They can be really noisy when they want to be. And because Perry was hand-raised, she treats us as her family, so she likes to be around all of us humans here at the zoo. Throw your keys back, girl. Tarakos will display to one another when they're trying to attract a mate, so they'll stick their tail feathers up, they'll show off all of their wing feathers. They're really quite beautiful. And both the males and the females help raise the young, which is pretty neat. They'll take turns sitting on the egg, they'll take turns putting food and feeding the baby. They typically have 1 or 2 eggs every clutch, so every year they'll lay 1 or 2 eggs. And actually have an empty egg from one of our exhibits for our breeding great blue Tarakos. That's as big as they are, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a really pretty color too.
Yeah, it's beautiful, just like a pale blue. And yeah, just a little smaller than a chicken egg.
Crazy.
Yeah, pretty cool. This is one that was just like emptied out, and then now we have it to show people how big their eggs are. How fun. Let's see, what else about Tarakos? How about, let me just finish up here with why they're important to us. Tarakos, like I mentioned earlier, eat tons and tons of leaves and fruits and vegetables, and while they do that, they're getting a lot of seeds, and that's going through their bodies as well. And so when they go to the bathroom, which happens like once every 8 to 10 minutes, she went right when we came in, that's the stop.
I'm glad I missed that.
Yeah, they actually kind of plant those seeds around the forest with a nice little thing of fertilizer, which is really nice, you know, with a little plot there, and then help new plants to grow. So they're a really important animal to the ecosystem, and that's why we love Tarakos. I named Perry because her blue color reminded me of Perry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb, which is...
Oh, I got a good look at the undercarriage there.
Oh, cute. Phineas and Ferb is one of the best shows on television, and I love Harry the Platypus, and so we named her Agent P. Hi.
She's so cute.
Yeah, she's perfection. You gonna get those keys? That's her poop spot there, Kelsey.
Yeah, it's really nice. Should I zoom in on it?
Yeah, nice and dark. She ate some blueberries this morning.
Hey, that's my phone.
She's trying to chew on her phone.
Allison says she loves Perry's hair today. Me too. So can we talk about that mohawk?
Yeah, so birds are covered in feathers, right? They have
Yeah.
all these different feathers that do different things. You can see over here on this wing a little bit of downy feather poking out. And the downy feathers help insulate the body and keep them nice and warm. She says bye. She has a beautiful long wing and tail feathers that help her slow down when she's flying and speed up when she's flying. And then of course she has those crest feathers right there, which help her kind of communicate to other birds or humans or whomever.
Yeah, she kind of fluffs them up.
Yeah, when she's like curious or excited, they'll get nice and fluffy. If she's really agitated by something, like if she sees something she doesn't like, which for Perry that's like any kind of predatory animal, like our bintrongs and our leopards that sometimes walk through the building, she's like, I don't like that. So she puts them all the way up and out, and then we'll boom at them or scream at them or whatever. I'm just saying, you back away from me. Really good at communicating, huh? And that's why they use that crest too. Helps communicate quite a bit.
Jordan asked, like most birds, are male Tarakos much more colorful than the females?
That's a great question. They're actually not at all. Perry is female and she is as beautiful as any male Tarako. That's not an opinion, that's just like a fact. Like, they look very pretty.
Yes.
Both sexes do. Hi, Perry. Look how fluffy. Cute. That's what we call a rouse, which is basically when a bird will lift all of their feathers up, shake them out, and then lay them back down again. It especially helps birds who fly a lot to make sure that their feathers are all aligned properly.
Her tail feathers are so long compared to, I feel like, a lot of the other birds we've looked at lately, which surprises me if she doesn't fly a lot.
Yeah, it helps glide.
Okay.
So other birds have tail feathers that they use a lot for like slowing down when they're flying, they're like coming in for a landing, they'll fan their tail out to help slow them down, or they'll use it in flight to kind of change direction. For the Tarakos, because their primary locomotion is running and then gliding, what they'll do often is they'll pick through a tree and they'll start down low, make their way up the tree, and then once they're done with that tree, they jump to the next tree and glide. And typically they'll land down near the base, right? So they jump from here, glide down. So
and then start the process back over. Okay.
Exactly. Having that massive tail really helps just keep her in the air for longer.
Does Tarakos have any defensive behaviors?
So definitely the booming calls that we mentioned earlier, and then the other thing that Tarakos and a lot of other similar birds will do is if there's a predator nearby and they're like, well, I have to figure out how to evade this predator. First, they're gonna alarm call that booms, and then they just vomit every food up that they have in their kind of digestive system, and then they poop out everything else on the other end. So they try to like void everything from their body so that they're lighter and it's easier for them to piece out.
That's a really interesting strategy.
Yeah, it's quite grotesque.
Like, imagine if we did that.
Yeah, not cute.
No.
Not cute. But a good way of evading predators, and certainly that may help too. Like, it helps her be faster because she's so much lighter, but it also is like gross. And so if the predator's like smelling a lot at that point, and then it smells like all this extra poop and all this vomit, it's like, that's not a cute look. I'm not gonna be into that.
What type of animals prey upon Tarakos?
Anything that eats birds will try to eat her. So all the kinds of cats, birds of prey like hawks, owls, and eagles, snakes, foxes, pretty much anything will try to prey upon Tarakos. And they're a good sized bird. A lot of them is feather, but they do have some meat on their bones. So it's a good kind of thing to try to eat if you're a predator. And obviously because they don't fly as much as I have said a couple times, they're a little bit easier to hunt down. Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to check out our Facebook and Instagram accounts throughout the week for live videos, and check out our YouTube channel on Fridays for the replays.